Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. A notorious serial killer assaulted in prison.
Correctional Service has internal procedures where they review the circumstances of the incident.
I'm content and I'm happy.
Relatives of Robert Pickton's victims don't hold back after hearing he's in critical condition. Plus, that heartbreaking Game 7.
They dug themselves a hole, a bit too deep to get themselves out of.
Just a disappointing effort. 2 efforts back-to-back was just not very good.
This playoff season may be over for the Canucks, but fans are optimistic looking to the future of the franchise. Also, the ripple effects of a dermatologist shortage.
I've had 4 melanomas removed from my head.
Training more, retaining more.
With melanoma cases on the rise, a look at what's being done to catch skin cancer in time.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. After several weeks of building excitement, the Canucks playoff run has come crashing down. The wound's still fresh for many die-hard fans. Still, most are proud with just how far the team made it. And as John Hernandez is finding out, there's plenty of optimism when it comes to the future of the franchise and what it means for this city.
The Edmonton Oilers are headed to Dallas.
Playoff dreams dashed. A third-period rally proved too little too late for the Vancouver Canucks.
I think the guys responded after the second half, and there was no quit.
Disappointed fans poured out of the arena Monday night.
They dug themselves a hole, a bit too deep to get themselves out of.
Just a disappointing effort. 2 efforts back-to-back was just not very good.
Come Tuesday morning, fans like Ronald Kumar still digesting the loss. He was also at the game.
We were very nervous. We were very on edge. I think we didn't even sit the last 5 or 8 minutes, and the security at the stadium kept coming up saying, guys, sit down, other people around you can't see, and I think no one was listening.
But Kumar is also optimistic looking forward.
They're on to the second round.
The Canucks defied the expectations of many fans this year, generating buzz and excitement not seen in this city for nearly a decade.
This run sets the bar high for the franchise and also for the city, and I think everyone should be excited.
A run that included an unlikely hero.
This is an official sleeve-off jersey.
Local Latvian Ron Ozols made a custom jersey of his countryman Artur Shilovs, the third-string goalie who took over the net during the playoff run. A proud fan, no matter the end result.
Being part of the Latvian culture, it's enormous. Having a player in such an important position and doing, I think, great or well, taking the team to as far as it did, it's tremendous.
The city of Vancouver says it's still analyzing the economic impact the playoff run had, but the boost in business at many pubs and restaurants was hard to miss.
Everywhere around here was full. Everybody told the same story. We're full. We start filling at 2 p.m. for a 6 p.m. game.
As for the future of the city's viewing parties, it's still up in the air. But this trial run seemed to be well received.
Yeah, it was a good, fun family time. We spent a lot of good times here.
A reminder of what a deep playoff run can mean to a city and a province, sparking belief that another crack at the cup isn't too far off. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Serial killer Robert Pickton is in critical condition after being assaulted by another inmate in a prison in Quebec.
When an incident like this happens, the Correctional Service has internal procedures where they review the circumstances of the incident to ensure that all of the appropriate security practices are in place.
Canada's Public Safety Minister calling Pickton one of the most dangerous criminals in the country. The assault happened Sunday. Police say the assailant is a 51-year-old man. Pickton has since undergone surgery and is now in the hospital. The 74-year-old was convicted of 6 counts of second-degree murder in 2007 and was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. The sister of one of his victims calls this news now of his assaults a relief.
And happy. To be honest, I jumped up and down. And I said, good for him. He deserved it. I don't wish any harm on anybody, but karma.
Tammy Papin was the sister of Georgina Papin. Police found her remains along with the remains or DNA of 32 other women on Pickton's pig farm in Port Coquitlam. Many of those women were Indigenous. An update now on London Drugs. The company says it's unwilling and unable to pay a ransom the cyber criminals are asking for behind the attack it suffered in April. The BC-based drugstore says it's become aware that cyber criminals on the dark web have identified London Drugs as a victim of exfiltration of files from the corporate head office. Those files could contain employee personal information, and London Drugs says that information could be leaked. However, the drugstore restated that it has no indication that patient or customer databases have yet been compromised. Vancouver Public Library workers have avoided a strike after reaching a tentative deal with their employer. The union says the deal will better support library workers and improve services. The ratification vote on the new contract will take place next week. 4 men accused of killing Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar were in BC court today, their first appearance together. As the CBC's Georgie Smythe reports, a judge has ordered them to not have contact with several people.
Today was the first time we've seen Karan Brar, Kamalpreet Singh and Amandeep Singh appear together in a Surrey courtroom. 3 of the men currently held in BC were led into the courtroom in handcuffs and sat right in front of members of the Gurdwara. Hardeep Singh Nijjar was killed last year. Amandeep Singh appeared via video link from Ontario. All 4 men are accused of the same charges of murder and conspiracy to commit murder. A Punjabi interpreter translated the court's directions to the accused men. The judge reordered that the men not contact a list of people, including members of Nijjar's family, and the men were required to say that they understood. There were less onlookers from the Sikh community here compared to their first appearance, but still many flags and signs outside court, including a mannequin of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi dressed in prison stripes and in handcuffs. Now it's been 10 months since Hardeep Singh Nijjar was gunned down in his car outside a Gurdwara in Surrey. The temple leader was also a prominent Sikh activist who advocated for the creation of a separate Sikh state in India known as Khalistan. Maninder Singh, a spokesperson from the BC Gurdwaras Council, held a short press conference outside court today and said that seeing the men in court in person was galvanizing for their cause and underlined the need for accountability.
I think this draws out a bit of emotion. We need to actually get the trial underway. We need to get a conviction and we need to get sentencing. That's how the community feels right now. But seeing them is a reminder for us that these 3 individuals were used by India. That 3 are here today, 3 will come tomorrow or the next year. It's really more up to what we can do in Canada to ensure that India is held accountable at the highest levels.
Now, it's hard to talk about this case without talking about those allegations of foreign interference. The federal government and police have previously confirmed that they are looking at possible links between Mr. Nijjar's murder and links to the Indian government. We expect to learn more about those allegations and links as this court process continues. The case has been adjourned for June 25. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Surrey, BC.
The BC government says it's taking action following public outcry over the fentanyl poisoning death of an 18-year-old student at the University of Victoria. The Ministry of Mental Health and Addiction says it is in discussions to purchase larger quantities of nasal naloxone, which is relatively easy to use. The province says it's also working on making CPR lessons mandatory in high schools. Those are some of the measures called for by the victims' parents in an open letter they wrote last week. Sydney McIntyre Starko died at a university dorm in January after being poisoned by fentanyl. Her parents say her death was preventable. The Premier, meanwhile, announced a coroner's inquest into the death last week. Documents obtained by CBC News are raising new questions about the collapse of charges in a major Victoria police drug bust. Emails show prosecutors had warned that misconduct allegations against one of the force's now former officers could jeopardize prosecutions of cases that he was involved in. Our Jason Proctor broke this story, and our Dan Burrett spoke with him a little earlier today.
Jason, remind us what happened here.
Yeah, so this was called Project Juliet, and it sort of fell apart as it was heading towards trial. And basically that's because what emerged during this proceeding was that investigators in the case misled the court about the involvement of one officer in the first iteration of this, who was himself facing misconduct allegations at the time of the investigation. And so this is one of these sort of cover-up being worse than the crime kind of thing, nothing suggesting what he actually did played any role in their prosecution itself. But it's just they didn't disclose that, and so that was a problem.
Now, you filed your own FOIs on this Freedom of Information request. What did you find out?
Yeah, well, it raises still more questions about this, because what we see is some emails from prosecutors at the time when this guy was arrested back in 2020, well before any of the information that was supposed to go to Crown or defense lawyers, saying we need to know every case he's involved with because it could jeopardize any prosecutions under rules of disclosure around where you're sort of required to tell defense about misconduct allegations involving police. We also got information about 100 or so cases that he had an involvement in as a witness officer, so either as an investigator or a confidential informant handler. And I was sort of able to kind of follow up on quite a few of them, finding that at least 18 also ended up in states. We don't know why, because prosecutors won't tell us, but it's just sort of lends questions to this whole thing about the fallout, and there are calls for more transparency around it.
All right. Jason Proctor, thanks very much.
A shortage of dermatologists across Canada means patients who need to be screened for skin cancer have to wait longer. The CBC's Yvette Brand looks at what is being done with cases of melanoma on the rise.
I've had 4 melanomas removed from my head.
Bruce Ballingall has lost much of the skin on his skull to cancer.
I have 5 brothers.
Yeah.
And all 5 of us, all 6 of us, have some type of skin cancer.
Mole mobile nurse Faye Youssef used a scope to screen his chest.
Looking at them, they do appear a little bit scaly and red.
Nobody warned me even about it until it was too late. And now I know all about it, and that's why I'm here to help convince people the sun will kill you if you let it.
He's eager for this charity-run mobile cancer screening van to drive to Kamloops, where his brother has waited for a dermatology appointment for a year and a half.
There's no dermatologist in Kamloops, apparently. So when this unit gets there, people will be able to get checked out.
Canada has only 770 dermatologists, mostly in urban parts of the country. 290 in Ontario, 96 in BC, 12 in Saskatchewan, and only 1 in PEI. This according to the Canadian Dermatology Association.
I don't have the perfect solution, but I think it goes with training more, retaining more.
He says Canada loses dermatologists to retirement or better paying jobs, often in cosmetic clinics.
It does pay that much more, yes. I'm a primary research nurse. I do skin cancer research. I think about skin cancer all the time, and I'm capped according to our provincial billing, which is among the lowest specialists in the province.
Meanwhile, melanoma can spread in months. So this Montreal woman was frantic to find a specialist. That took months, but only minutes for the doctor to flag a mole on her back and remove it. 8 weeks later, cancer was confirmed.
It knocked the breath out of me, honestly. I knew that something was wrong. It's not normal to have a pimple or a mole that's going to basically disrupt your whole day.
She is relieved her skin cancer was caught in time, but worries about others who aren't so lucky. Yvette Brand, CBC News, Vancouver.
If you looked outside at any point today, you probably aren't surprised to hear that a rainfall warning is in effect for parts of Metro Vancouver. The warnings cover both North and West Vancouver, as well as Coquitlam and Maple Ridge. Environment Canada is saying there's a risk of flash flooding and pooling water. 50 millimeters of rain is forecast to fall on the region by tomorrow morning. And it's not something we usually warn about at the end of May, but Environment Canada is also warning about snow for drivers heading into or out of the interior. Environment Canada says 2 to 4 centimeters is coming to the Coquihalla, Okanagan Connector, Allison Pass, and Kootenay Pass. The snowfall is expected into tomorrow morning as well. Drivers planning to take those routes are encouraged to closely monitor conditions and check Drive BC for the very latest conditions. With that, let's bring in our Darius Madavi. Darius, that time of year, we might see some snow, maybe some sun, maybe some rain, a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, we got all of it. And you've done most of my job for me, so thanks, Tanya. Yes, lots of rainfall coming, so I would just say if you are walking down the road and you see a gutter that's full of leaves, maybe just kick them out of the way. But other than that, I don't expect that we're going to see too much danger here because most of the rain has fallen. It might intensify a little bit over the next hour or two once again, but then we should taper off into tomorrow. In terms of the special weather statements in parts of the interior, decent amount of snowfall coming for this time of year at least. So just be aware of that if you are traveling. And then we do have an air quality statement up by Fort Nelson as well. Now, I do want to mention lows aren't really below seasonal anywhere in the province for any urban areas at least, but it's just that the freezing levels are dropping a lot on the mountain. So don't worry too much if you're not in those areas, but those cooler conditions are probably a relief for some people in the north, but they're not going to last too long. Fort Nelson shooting back up to around 20 degrees and going to hold that for the rest of this week. So in terms of the fire danger, even though we have seen a bit of a reprieve, we'll start to see that come back up. Although, again, winds aren't expected to come back up until at least the end of the week. So we should see, again, still some reprieve, but smoke will still be a bit of an issue over the next few days for the region. But other than that, not too much more smoke in the rest of the area. And again, as long as the winds stay down, we should be okay for a few days at least.
Okay, we'll chat with you again at the end of the show. Thanks, Darius.
Thank you.
Well, the cooler weather is a good sign for firefighters, yes. Officials say wildfire has destroyed 4 homes and damaged 6 others in Fort Nelson. With thousands of residents still under evacuation order, the mayor says planning is underway to make their return as seamless as possible.
We're bringing people back in little bits so that we can, A, protect them, because if they come back in under our authority, if the worst happens and this fire flares up again and we have to move them, we have to know where they are. So we're trying to do what we can in advance of getting the word from the wildfire service.
And once the BC Wildfire Service does give the go-ahead to return, they anticipate it'll take 10 to 14 more days for residents to go back home. Well, those evacuees, 4,700 of them in all from Fort Nelson and the nearby First Nation, have been out of their homes now for 11 days and counting. Most of them sheltering in the northern city of Fort St. John. Our Michelle Gassoub and video producer GP Mendoza were in that community documenting life under evacuation.
We're in the community of Fort St. John, British Columbia. Right now, there are around 3,000 people evacuated here from Fort Nelson. Those people had just a few hours to throw their belongings into bags, get in their cars and drive here because of a huge wildfire that is threatening their community. And this has become the reality for thousands of Canadians every summer and now every spring as wildfire season seems to start earlier and become more dangerous. We arrived in town a couple of days after most evacuees had arrived. The local hockey arena had been turned into an evacuation center, so we caught up with some of them there.
We were the first to be evacuated because of where our house is. My friend called me and then was like, "Are you guys evacuating?" We looked out the window, you could see the glow of the fire and the smoke went up. Yeah, it's kind of freaky, but we're all out and we're good. So we have our ups and downs where we're emotional and not emotional, and we're okay and then we're not. So because we don't really know what's going on. We hear the rumor line, and the rumor line is just really long. So I've shut it all down. I don't want updates or anything except for like when we have to come renew or whatever.
What is it like to be evacuated by a wildfire?
It's scary. It's really scary. Mostly you're just worried about everybody. Like, we don't care about the stuff. Like, we could rebuild. It's hard, but it's easy. But you can't replace a life, right? So when you see somebody that you work with, or you see the kids, or somebody that you know, it just makes your heart ease a little bit, if that makes sense.
Every time we'd come down to Fort St. John, you'd run into 1 or 2 people, you know, that are down for the weekend, you know, shopping at Walmart or something. Now you go to Walmart and it's like, hey, it's like 98% Fort Nelson people. Try to go to a restaurant and you get told it's a 45-minute wait because of all the people from Fort Nelson.
Yeah, it's like a weird high school reunion.
Yep.
It's mid-May. Did you ever expect that you'd be evacuated at this time?
Absolutely not. Wish we would have stayed home. If we get evacuated again, we'll be staying home to try and help, right?
I mean, that's a tough decision to make, but tell me about that calculus.
You don't really have time to think about it. It was so, the smoke coming towards us initially was so ominous and quick that we just fled, right? We were basically fight or flight. So once we got halfway down here and realized we could have stayed and helped, we went down and we should have stayed. But
so you offered to help?
To run cat or hoe or whatever, but they said you can't come back.
And is that hard to not be able to defend your own home?
Yes. It's terrible.
And to give some relief to everyone who is there doing
I
it.
said I'd work for free, I just said, so, but they won't let you come back, so what do you do?
Well, this is our first rodeo, so now we know.
Once the panic and chaos of getting out of town is over, there's a lot of waiting around. People aren't working, kids aren't in school, and people are holed up in hotel rooms with not a lot to do but watch for updates, or look for spots around town to basically hang out and pass the time.
Yeah, just going to parks. We found a dog park the other day, so we took our dog there. At McDonald's Play Center here for my oldest girl to play. Can you say hi, Nora? It's tough, but just for my girls, like I try not to show them how tough it is. I didn't, honestly, the packing part, like when you get to that situation, you don't, like your mind's just all over the place. I didn't honestly know what to pack. I forgot a lot of things like underwear, socks, like even pants. Like it was just, it's crazy, honestly. But I'm just thankful we're out, we're safe.
On day 5 of people being out of their homes, we heard that a public meeting was going to be held at the hockey arena, so we headed there. You can see some people starting to arrive. They've been out of their homes for a few days now, and officials are about to hold the first community update. So people are going to get a chance to ask their questions and get an update on the situation on the ground in Fort Nelson right now. We couldn't bring our camera inside, but the entire meeting was broadcast on Facebook so that people evacuated all across BC could watch.
They're going to kill this beast if the weather holds the way it is. So I'm really feeling confident that we'll get some kind of a word that fire is not impacting our community.
Please know we had a plan. We had a plan. It was a good plan. It worked, and yeah, our communities, our people are safe. So that's the most important thing.
Still, there was some frustration about the process of evacuating, especially finding places to stay. In just a couple of days, Fort St. John pretty much ran out of hotel rooms. There were 3,000 evacuees trying to be absorbed by a town with 20,000 residents, and some people had to keep driving to Prince George, Chetwynd, and Dawson Creek for shelter. Everywhere we went, there seemed to be stories of people trying to help out any way they could. We saw a Facebook post about a tattoo artist who was visiting Fort Nelson when the evacuation order came down, and a local shop here had offered him a place to work. He left Fort Nelson later than most evacuees. He was helping his dad safely shut down his hotel.
So we were able to go to the 5th floor of that and see the whole town from a 360 view, and you could get a good clear view of the smoke and where it was coming from, and it looked like an atom bomb. Like it was the mushroom cloud was 400 feet tall.
Was it scary?
I didn't get scared. I'm not scared. I have the utmost faith in all the people working up there and everybody. I have faith in everybody.
Jamie reminded us when an entire community is forced to evacuate, it doesn't pause all the other issues people are dealing with.
In our hometown, we've lost pretty well like 40 people in the last year, to overdose and whatever else it can be. I'm not gonna go there, but the town is always getting knocked down, and we're always picking ourselves up, and we're always there to lean on each other.
What do you want people to know about what it's like to see your hometown threatened and to have to leave?
I think it's humbling. I don't think I have the right words for it. I don't think I can put it into words.
Fort Nelson has been evacuated before, and with a wildfire season predicted to be particularly dangerous, it's likely more communities will also have to pack up and get out of the path of the flames. Other cities and towns in Canada will need to absorb hundreds, maybe even thousands of people overnight. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Fort St. John.
A BC man is helping spread the sport of disc golf to players of all abilities. He's using his personal experience as motivation to make the sport accessible to everyone. Take a look.
Ready? Let's go. I'm Dion Eden. I'm the founder of All Accessible Disc Golf, playing disc golf since 1997, designing since 2003. In 2009, I was in a car accident where I had to relearn how to play disc golf. I couldn't play for the first year or two because of the pain. So it kind of made me learn how to make courses accessible from any level, from any perspective. And that's kind of what led me into what I've done now and the creation of the accessible rating system that I launched on UDisc. It's a rating system that has 3 different levels: wheelchair accessible, limited mobility / cane to identify that level, and then not easily accessible. And that's been applied to the disc golf courses worldwide on the UDisc platform. Like, you can search it on a map now and search wheelchair accessible or limited mobility. You can search for those courses, and then you'll know that you can go there and play.
I like playing it because it's a fun competitive sport. It's all about having fun and going out there and having the best time of your life.
Ready? Let's try again. It just makes me feel good, and I know I'm doing the right thing, and that's what I'm doing it for. I'm not doing it for anything else, just to bring this accessibility to people, to bring this, to just identify this and make things more accessible, and I think we all want that, right? That was awesome.
Still ahead, summer is in the air, and for parents, that means figuring out childcare when school's out. After the break, we'll hear about the barriers many families face and what some organizations are doing to help. Stay with us. With summer break on the horizon, many parents are facing that annual struggle of sorting out childcare. There are options from daycare and overnight camps to hiring babysitters or even nannies, but those options aren't affordable to all families in the province. Sharon Gregson is part of the $10 a day childcare campaign and has spent decades advocating for affordable childcare here in BC and right across the country. So thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So let's start out by take us through some of the decisions parents are facing when they have to sort out childcare over those summer months.
Well, cost, quality, access, these are issues that parents grapple with 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and still today. There's just not enough options for families.
You mentioned cost. That's often the biggest sticking point for many families. So how much, can you give us a ballpark estimate, how much would, say, a day camp or an overnight camp run a family this summer if they're looking into that option?
There's quite a stretch, and so if you're looking for a sports camp, you could easily be paying $600 a week. If you're looking for more of a Parks and Rec kind of camp, you could be looking at $200 to $300 a week. Some of those camps, though, only run from 9 to 3, the same as school hours. And so if you're hoping for before and after hours, though, that could be additional dollars as well. Families often are phoning every available licensed childcare that they can because that's where they're more likely to find affordability with all the new programs that government has put in place for licensed childcare. That's definitely the most affordable option.
But often the most backlogged as well. I know it can be a struggle to find that even during the year. Is it more challenging or less during the summer for those types of spots?
I think it can be more challenging because not all school-age programs ramp up to offering full day care during the summer. They don't always have the staff and they don't always have access to the same facilities as they did during the school year. But a lot of families also are able to take vacation during the summer, and so they might not be using their space that they would use from September to June. And so it really means a lot of phone calls for families.
And obviously that's why a lot of families plan their summer vacations around these schedules. I know your group, the $10 a day childcare campaign, has put forward solutions in the past, worked with government to bring in some of these programs. What would you like to see specifically around this summer struggle, I guess? What would you like to see happen?
Specifically around summer, we'd like to see better use of our elementary schools and high schools, publicly funded facilities that often sit mostly empty during July and August. That's where we think we could be making best use of opportunities for school-age children, not just an extension of school, but play-based, Parks and Rec kind of approach, sports, STEM activities. They could all happen in schools during the summer.
Is there a formal push for that happening now, or how would that look?
Right, so the Coalition of Childcare Advocates has always pushed for better use of schools. During the summer is the most obvious piece, but we think there's a bigger role for school districts than is currently happening. We were pleased to see the Premier announce just last week 3 school districts are being funded to start offering more care for before and after school care, but we need to expand to summer.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you joining us.
It's been fun to be here. Thanks.
That's Sharon Gregson with BC's long-running $10 a day childcare campaign joining us. Coming up, a long-haul Singapore Airlines flight turns fatal after hitting extreme turbulence over the Indian Ocean. We'll have the full story after the break. Welcome back. Let's take you overseas. And a funeral procession has been held for Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. He was killed in a helicopter crash in northwestern Iran over the weekend. This was the scene in the country's capital as the bodies of the president and Iran's foreign minister arrived in Tehran. They were among the 8 people killed in a helicopter crash Sunday near the Azerbaijan border. Iran is marking 5 official days of mourning now for Raisi. In other international news, a British man is dead and more than 24 others are injured after a Singapore Airlines flight hit severe turbulence over the Indian Ocean. As the CBC's Briar Stewart explains, the plane was forced to make an emergency landing in Bangkok after it suddenly dropped into an air pocket.
These were the moments after a Boeing 777 flying from London to Singapore was forced to make an emergency landing in Thailand. Some of the 211 passengers on board were carried off on stretchers. Others were triaged and treated on the tarmac of the airport after they were violently thrown around the plane when it hit severe turbulence.
It was instantaneous. It really was. And horrible.
Jerry was traveling with family to a wedding in Australia.
It went so sudden, there was no warning at all. And I ended up hitting my head on the ceiling, my wife did. Some poor people who were walking around ended up doing somersaults.
A 73-year-old British passenger died of a suspected heart attack. People not buckled in slammed into the overhead bins, denting some and causing oxygen masks to fall. The crew was serving breakfast at the time and was particularly vulnerable.
This was saying came on, and as soon as I saw him, I put my seatbelt on. And at that very moment, the plane just suddenly dropped. The thing I remember the most was just the objects and things flying through the air.
Passengers said the turbulence lasted seconds.
We do not know exactly what happened in this event.
Captain Shem Momquist has flown the 777 and is a safety investigator. He says in warm tropical places like Myanmar, where this plane hit severe turbulence, storms form differently than they do in places like North America and may not be visible to the pilots.
It is very likely that the storm will just not present itself at all on the radar, and the pilots will suddenly notice at the very last minute, hey, we have something in front of us.
Which is why he urges passengers to wear their seatbelt throughout a flight. Because while what happened is extremely rare, there may be little warning. An investigation is underway to determine what caused the plane to drop, but experts say that climate change is causing more turbulence. One group of researchers from the UK predict that in the coming decades, severe turbulence caused by changing jet streams could double or even triple. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
Well, some good news today on the inflation front. For the 4th month in a row, inflation in Canada has slowed. As the CBC's Nisha Patel explains, the overall rate hit 2.7% in April. That's down from 2.9% the month before.
Inflation in Canada is cooling, the overall rate hitting 2.7% in April, its lowest level in 3 years.
Many categories of goods, the prices are not increasing as fast, and I think it's a good news overall.
Grocery prices rose 1.4% compared to a year ago, with products like fruit and fish seeing declines. Prices for clothing and footwear and household furniture actually dropped more than 2%. Still, many Canadians may not be feeling much relief.
We don't feel 1%, we feel really 22%, because what our reference point really is when inflation started skyrocketing in June, in the first part of 2021.
The biggest driver of inflation now is shelter. The cost of interest on mortgages is squeezing homeowners, while renters are seeing their housing bills soar, especially in Alberta, where rent is up more than 16% in a year.
Do you know what's absolutely insane, Calgary? Is that the apartment I had literally exactly 1 year ago is up $900 in rent. $900.
But overall, inflation is now within the Bank of Canada's comfort zone and is inching closer to its target of 2%. That may boost the case for the central bank to start cutting interest rates.
And there's a real risk that if they wait too long, it could force the economy into an unnecessary recession.
It can take more than a year for interest rate changes to work their way through the economy. Some market watchers say businesses are already buckling.
We need to cut 150 basis points right now. We need to get oxygen into the patient right now. And we're talking about 25 in July or 25 in June? Are you kidding me?
The odds that the central bank will cut interest rates in June are a little more than 50-50. But if the bank wants to wait for more evidence that inflation is under control, that rate relief may not come until July. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
To Ottawa, and the Speaker in the House of Commons is under fire once again. Conservative MPs are once again calling for the resignation of Greg Fergus, leveling new charges of Liberal partisanship. The CBC's Rafi Bujikanian has the latest.
For the good of the institution, of Parliament, and the enduring interest of the House of Commons, I regret to say that the Speaker must go.
The Conservatives demanding the resignation of House Speaker Greg Fergus because of this invite to a Liberal event, scrubbed from the web but saved by the official opposition. It says Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives propose reckless policies that would risk our health, safety and pocketbook. Far too partisan, they say, for the Speaker, who must be neutral.
It is incumbent upon this House to take action immediately.
The Speaker's office, though, stated this was an event by his local Liberal Writing Association, which says the partisan statement was written by the Federal Party without Fergus's knowledge, prompting this from the NDP.
I regret that the Liberal Party of Canada basically blindsided the Speaker. And in this case, that's why the National Director of the Liberal Party of Canada, I believe, needs to apologize fully and completely to the Speaker of the House of Commons.
It's not the first time the Conservatives have tried to oust Fergus. Last December, they and the Bloc Québécois called on him to step down after he appeared in a video message at an Ontario Liberal event wearing his non-partisan robes.
It's such a great opportunity to speak about my longtime friend, John Fraser.
The relationship between the official opposition and Fergus further strained last month when he ejected their leader from the House for a day for using unparliamentary language.
It's wacko policy by this wacko Prime Minister.
Today, the Prime Minister stood by him.
I have full confidence in Greg Fergus as Speaker of the House of Commons, as a thoughtful, independent-minded leader. The issue was dealt with, was addressed by the party.
In fact, the Liberal Party's national director ended up apologizing to Fergus in a public letter, stating the invite was based on their standard party language but put up without his knowledge. The Conservatives, though, say they will keep pressing for his removal as Speaker. Rafi Bujikani on CBC News, Ottawa.
Up next, we'll look at how climate change is hurting the Iceberg tourism business in Newfoundland and how locals are adapting. That's after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's take you to the other coast. And in northeastern Newfoundland, iceberg season is in full swing. Each year, tourists come from around the world hoping to spot one of the massive chunks of ice as it floats down from the north. But as the CBC's Peter Cowan shows us, those icebergs are in short supply this year, putting the local economy at risk.
You can see lots of signs for icebergs in Twillingate, even in the local beer. But there's one place that you can't find the real thing.
We looked out the harbour, there's no icebergs here right now.
Barry Rogers is getting ready for his first tour of the season. About half of the customers at Iceberg Quest are looking for, well, icebergs, and he doesn't have any to offer.
It's a little disappointing, but I mean, we've been doing this, Peter, for a long time. And, you know, there's no two seasons that are the same to us.
Sea ice helps protect icebergs from melting and breaking up as they float down from Greenland. But a warmer ocean meant there was less ice this year. Secor is a non-profit company that tracks icebergs for offshore oil platforms and for the Iceberg Finder website. Its data shows that over the last few decades, the amount of sea ice has been shrinking.
We're going to continue to see decreased ice cover, a thinner ice, fewer icebergs. And that's something that we just have to deal with.
It's not good news for tourists like Peter Lamarck, here from the Netherlands with one goal.
Well, I'm 60 this year, so I want to see an iceberg in my life.
Alrighty, excellent. Oh, nice.
For businesses that rely on tourists, it means a pivot. Deborah Borden runs a pub, a hotel, and a restaurant. She says when her guests can't see icebergs, she encourages them to enjoy the hiking, history, or the people.
While we know that people may have some disappointment, I really truly believe that when they leave, many of them just say, hey, I'll be back, and maybe the next time we'll get to see icebergs.
It's still early in the season. A few icebergs may still float by, but for the long term, all people here can do is hope that the icebergs and the tourists keep coming. Peter Cowan, CBC News, Twillingate, Newfoundland.
Certainly a different scene than we see on our stretch of this coast. Let's chat with Darius. Something we do see a lot, though, rain. Plenty of it today.
Oh, yes, and more on the way, although we do have a bit of a sunny break first. But yes, lots of rain. We had it coming down from the north. No radar coverage here, so we can't see it. But there was rain pretty much across the southwestern BC today, just ending in the north and then making its way down south. But still, some should linger into tomorrow. If we take a look here at this, this model forecasting, you'll notice that there is going to be one more stretch of really heavy rain tonight. This is a bit of an interesting one, how this is forming exactly. I won't get into it too much, but know that if you're in Nanaimo or Vancouver later tonight, you could get some pretty heavy rain. That should continue for just a couple hours, a little bit longer for the North Shore before starting to taper off there as well. So a little bit more heavy rain should intensify again in the next few hours, but then should calm down once more, and we should start to see that precipitation start to taper off. Along with that strong rain, also going to be some very strong winds over the next 12 hours or so. Should taper off by later in the morning, but you can see coming down the strait, places like Nanaimo and Vancouver, some very heavy, very strong winds coming there. Those are going to continue into early tomorrow morning as well before tapering off. So it shouldn't be too bad, but if you're by the water early tomorrow morning, be prepared for some very gusty winds, as much as 60 kilometers per hour easily. If we zoom out to the rest of the province, though, I want to look at the wind forecast for the next few days rather than just the next 12 hours or so. You'll notice that we won't see too much strong wind up in the northeast where we're really worried about it. In some places, it will gust over 30 kilometers per hour, which is really the threshold where you should start to be concerned. But those are just the gusts, not the consistent wind. So again, not too much to worry about there, at least until we get into the weekend where winds might pick up a little bit, but for now, doesn't seem like it should be too bad. In terms of precipitation across the province, still a bit of a wet one ahead over the next few days for much of the southern interior in particular, and then potentially breaking into a system that should cover most of BC by the end of this week, but not likely to bring rain up in Fort Nelson. Mostly going to stay dry there. But again, a couple more wet days for Vancouver. In terms of temperatures, again, suppressed today pretty much across BC. Going to shoot back up tomorrow for most places except for the southern interior and the southeast, where it takes a couple more days to get up there, but not too much longer. Temperatures coming back up across the board. In terms of conditions across the province tomorrow, we're looking at mostly sunny skies for the coast and then mostly rainfall throughout the interior and tapering off here on the coast as we get into later in the day, where we get a little bit more sunshine. In terms of 5-day forecast, as promised, ping-ponging back and forth between showery and sunny and showery and sunny and showery. So something for everybody, Tanya.
All right, it's May. I guess what do we expect? Thanks, Darius.
Thank you.
After the break, we bring you the tale of two alpacas who formed a special bond despite all odds. Stay with us.
More than 100 teams of chefs are being put to the test in Vancouver this week, part of the World Championship of Chinese Cuisine.
The competition, which takes place every 4 years, challenges teams to create 4 dishes within 2 hours, including appetizers, main courses, and desserts. There are multiple rounds, and the winner will be crowned at an awards banquet this Friday.
Yummy. Now, 2 alpacas who've suffered years of neglect have formed a bond at a llama sanctuary in Tappan, BC, near Salmon Arm.
After being rejected by other animals for being different, they seem to have found their happy ending. Check it out.
We have 2 very special alpacas they've brought tears to our eyes and joys to our hearts because they've both been lonely. They've both been without companions. Jemmy being 3, when she came to us at 3 days old, she had been rejected by her mother because of her strange head movement. She's swaying like this to be able to hear. She hears the vibration on things, so she's always listening. And she is now 7. She just had her 7th birthday. In fact, it's probably today. And She's filled our hearts with joy. She is a sanctuary superstar with the visitors, but she's never managed to have a companion who would accept her fully.
Eddie, the alpaca, arrived in October of last year in very poor shape. He's quite a bit older. We don't know how old, but he is completely crippled from not being able to move for so long because his coat was so heavy. He is slowly recovering, but in that recovering stage, just recently we happened to bring the 2 alpacas into the same paddock and they met up and formed a bond that is most unlikely, but it's precious.
Eddie was observing her. I saw him watching her. He couldn't take his eyes off her. And I think he was noticing that when the others were mean to her, that she didn't retaliate. She didn't react in the normal llama or alpaca way. And I think that interested him because he, up until then, couldn't think of mixing with anyone. But he got up, he went over, he said hello, and that was it. He started humming. She followed his hums because at last she had a sound to follow, and they were inseparable.
To actually find a companion for her, or for her to find a companion, should I say, is just miraculous. It's really uplifting.
I think I'd like to meet those 2. They look so sweet.
So cute.
Thank you for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on GEM anytime. That's our free app, as well as on YouTube and our website, cbc.ca/BC.
Jessica Chung will have your next local news at 11 o'clock tonight, right here after the National. Have a good night.
Good night.